Smell is an important part of everyday communication, resurrecting forgotten memories, enhancing flavors, signaling danger. These are some of the effects of odor perception. But does smell affect our behavior as much as we think it does?
What is odor perception? Well, the nose picks up chemical signals. The air contains little chemicals floating around. At the nervous system level, we've got olfactory receptors, a membrane at the very top of the nose. So when we sniff and breathe in something, if there are distinctive smells, they stimulate this receptor surface, and that triggers a signal that goes straight into the brain, which is maybe why it has much more sometimes emotional power, and it's sensitive to pick those up. So when we sense, we pick up these particular chemicals, that we perceive that as a smell. There's something called the Proust effect, and this is Marcel Proust was a French writer about 100 years ago, and he wrote this very long novel called The Remembrance of Things Past, and he talks at the very beginning about how the taste and the smell of certain little biscuits that he had when reminded him of his childhood and brought him right back. So smells help recall very strong reminders, and sometimes can work almost unconsciously perhaps, that we're not aware of the smell, but nevertheless it can influence what we remember. The way we know best what role it plays is when people lose their sense of smell, and that happens in old age. People's sense of smell deteriorates, but it also happens to people have a brain accident to the head. In fact, my wife was hit by a bus many years ago, but as a result of that, she lost her sense of smell. One of the things that happens is that food doesn't taste very good. The pleasure that comes from food is mainly olfactory. That can be quite dangerous, because what people do, a common result is people add a lot more salt. Or in my wife's case, she added a lot more capsaicin, pepper, chili. So she has a huge tolerance now of chili. Smell functions can smell as a danger signal. Smelling a fire, obviously, or if you're smelling a gas leak. If you've lost your sense of smell, you no longer get those danger signals. Smell is never seen as important. It's very hard to control smells, so it's much harder to do precise studies, as it were, where the perception of wine and wine expertise depends on being able to smell. Wines contain something like 500 different molecules. Smelling is 90% of what's called wine tasting is really wine smelling. So it's sorting that out and working out how to control some and not the others, and finding out what contributes to what people judge to be a very good wine, and analysing what are the odours that you need is very, very complicated. I've at times tried to check out claims that unconsciously that smells can affect our behaviour by trying to associate a particular smell with some strong emotion. And I've done experiments where you put a smell, when they're reading something, there's a smell around, and then try and test whether that smell unconsciously affects them in some other task, right? It's very hard to get those effects. Most of our reactions to smells are learned. Even disgusting smells. I mean, we think, the smell of shit. We think, oh, that's horrible. It must, how could anybody like that smell? But in fact, we acquire that. Those emotional reactions to smell are learned. Smells play a very important part in memory, in remembering things, and maybe unconsciously cue memories that we're not aware. We remember something, we've no idea it might have been a smell that triggered that memory. I don't think that smells affect our behaviour directly very often. I mean, I think some people are particularly sensitive to that, but made me laugh.